Welcome to Local SEO in 10. This is your go-to podcast for answers about how you can grow your local business online easily and quickly. Brought to you by local SEO experts Magnified Media in Walnut Creek, California. In each 10-minute episode, our digital marketing expert Adam Duran answers your questions on how you can get more leads for your business fast. Remember, if you're not taking care of this part of your business right now, you can bet your competitors are. And now, here's our host with the questions, Jamie Duran, and our expert with the answers, Adam Duran.
Hello, Adam.
Hey, Jamie.
How is everything going this week?
Oh, busy. Busy as always, the land of SEO.
All right.
Good.
Do we have more fun with Google, more fun with GoDaddy, more fun? Well, who do we have
Yeah,
fun with?
all of those.
Oh.
All right. So
Awesome.
this podcast is going to talk about what happens when your website is hacked. Jamie brought in the two big players, GoDaddy and Google. And if your website is on GoDaddy, you may have experienced this, where you go to your website and suddenly it's all in a different language and it's advertising a casino in Macau or something. That can happen. And that does happen every day. Websites are hackable, and just by very nature, if your website is on WordPress, there's a lot of vulnerabilities. They keep on updating the backbone of WordPress, and what happens when you do that is any kind of vulnerability in that process where WordPress has your theme, and then connected to that theme are plugins that increase the functionality of the site. And if one is updated and the other one isn't, then there's a security hole sometimes. And then that's what hackers do. They can get into your website through that way, or they can actually get in through the back end of your site as well. So when that happens, Jamie, what do you think? How do you find out first?
Well, you go to your website, of course, because you would never get a notification that someone has changed your files or anything. So routinely, check your website. And then when it flashes, do not enter, this is now an unsafe website, then you have to reach out to your web host.
Yes. Okay. So actually, if your site was set up correctly, part of that setup should have included connecting your website to Google Analytics and Google Search Console. And when that happens, Google Search Console will kick out an email saying, hey, there's these crazy links that are starting to pop up on your website. And so make sure that, if you have a website, it's using WordPress, or any website actually, make sure it is connected to Google Search Analytics and Google Search Console. Both of those are super important. And we have clients that come on that they don't even know what we're talking about. And when we create that account for them, it's the first time it's ever been done.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So when that happens, you shake your head and move on, because you make sure it's done. Whenever we take on a client, this is one of the first things we do in our setup phase, is to make sure that kind of thing is connected, and that the client has access to those accounts as well, because it's tracking their progress, all that stuff. But one of the other benefits is if Google Search Console detects a problem. So like Jamie said, when you go to your site and it says "do not enter" or whatever, Google Search Console gets hip to that as well, and then they'll send you an email that says something. And you have to pay attention to those emails. Don't make sure they're not going to your spam folder. Make sure if you have a marketing team or an agency or a website designer that's on staff or you pay, make sure that they're on those accounts as well. Okay.
Okay, except that Google sends so many emails.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to discern between here, this one's important, and hey, we indexed your searching.
Right. So make sure that you do click on those. You don't ignore them. It's kind of the price of doing business, because if you do ignore them and you leave your website hacked, basically what happens is that these bots get into your site and they just start creating web pages. And in a couple days time, you could have 500 new pages added to your site. And when that happens, Google reacts, and how they react is they basically take your website off of search because they don't want to perpetuate that, the spam that's being created on your site. So that's one thing you want to make sure that this is kind of important, because if your site is taken off search, it does take time to, number one, come back, and then number two, get back to where it actually was in terms of its ranking. So one day, probably not going to be a problem, but 5 days, it's going to be a problem, and it will affect your ranking. Okay. All right. So first thing when you see this, stay calm. That's number one. All right. The next thing, you're going to log into your hosting account, because most likely you cannot log into your website. Your website, you won't be able to see it from the front end. From the back end, you can log into your hosting account. When you do that, make sure that right away you change your password, because if they came in through the hosting account, that's one way that now you'll be able to restrict their access to your website. Once you log into your hosting account, change your password, then you can try and log into your website from the hosting account. And it's pretty simple to do, but like I said, if your website is down, it's going to not work. So if you have a web hosting company that you pay more than $5 a month for, then there will be backups of your site. And those backups could have been, it depends on what hosting service you have. But, if you're with Wix or Squarespace, those backups are done every minute, kind of. It's pretty amazing how there are tons of backups for you to choose from, because what you're going to have to do is restore from a backup. WordPress, it depends on your hosting service. If your hosting service doesn't provide backups, which some of them don't, then you're going to have to either change hosts or upgrade that account. And, the days of $3 or $5 for hosting a month, those are gone, because you will experience this once. And that is, there's no backups. And then everyone in customer support shrugs their shoulders and they move on, because it's not their business and they don't care. So you should have paid for that upsell. You should have paid for that feature. Most places will have it, but, go in and check just in case. Okay. So once you do restore from a backup, go back a week or two, where that your website wasn't going crazy, restore from that backup, and then go through and change everybody's password. This is a good chance to see the users that have access to the back end of your website, and make sure that you recognize all of them. And then you also reset everyone's password, because the hacker could have, or that robot or whatever, could have come in through those users as well. So by changing the password, maybe changing their name, or password probably is fine, but then you can restore your site and everything. That would basically take about 10 or 15 minutes. So crisis solved.
Hopefully.
Boom. Last, if you're on WordPress, you want to log into your backend and then consider adding a plugin like WordFence or Bulletproof Security. These are plugins that will stop many of the major, most common ways of hacking a site. And that's a good way. You pay for the upgrade and make sure that that's part of your it's part of your budget for having the website, because going through this, if it's, like I said, if it's up there for 3 or 4 days or 5 days, it can be a nightmare.
Yes, it can be. And they never happen at a good time either. It's always, you're on vacation and you're gone for 2 weeks. And anyway, not my favorite when that happens. And It is funny, because you said at the beginning of the podcast, when your website is hacked, not if your website is, because you would think with all the antivirus and all the protections that your web host in theory has installed, it'd be very, very difficult to hack these websites. But as you said, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And it seems apparently anyone can hack a website. So you gotta stay vigilant.
It's just, if you have a website, you should expect it. I mean, with these plugins that I mentioned at the very end, they will tell you how many attacks they have thwarted per day.
Yep.
And if you look at those stats, you'll be surprised. I mean,
where are these hackers
consistent.
from, Adam?
Mostly from China, India,
What?
Pakistan, Russia, the big ones.
Interesting.
So you can block their IP addresses. You can do with these plugins. You can choose who can see your site, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
There's a number of ways that you can make your site more secure. But even if you do all that, I know that hosting, if you pay for a cheap host and they host your website on a computer with hundreds of other businesses' websites on that computer, somebody can get access to your website through the host. So it's not even through the internet; it's through the hosting provider, which that sucks too. So
that really sucks.
Make sure that you have backups. Make sure that you have WordFence or something like that installed, and just understand. Pay attention to those emails from Google.
Well, and you've talked about ransomware and talked about businesses not being their websites being held for ransom and restoring from backup isn't an option, all that kind of stuff. So
you should.
This is really important podcast, as they all are. But this one, if you have a website and you know of another business that has a website, or they tell you, oh my God, what a great deal that, Bob's Web Hosting, which I've seen in many networking groups of a guy who, hosts his, I have hundreds of our network, our in-person network. They use this Bob's computer as their web host, and they pay him $15 a month for their hosting. It was pretty risky, of course. And when his server got attacked, he kind of just shrugged his shoulders and said, that's terrible. And, my backups only go back 5 days. So
yikes.
Yeah. Ouch.
All right. That's all I got for us for today.
Okay.
Thanks.
Can you leave us with something happy, Adam? Anything fun happened in the world of local SEO this week?
No.
Oh. Yeah. Well, it was sunny for a little while. How about that? The wind kicked up and it's freezing cold outside here.
Yes.
So, yes. All right. That's good.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, hopefully this brightened your week, but it at least motivated you to at least check your website. Make sure you check the emails from Google. Make sure you're set up on Google. That would be great too. But if you know somebody who has a website or even hosts websites, it might be good to ask them, hey, what happens if you get hacked? That kind of thing. Because should they go down, so does your website. And as Adam's talked about before, that can be a major pain in the neck when we're all very busy. And just hopefully the website's going and we can just keep our businesses going and keep them in place to continue serving our clients. But if you do have a question for Adam, feel free to go to our Facebook or LinkedIn page, Local SEO in 10, and go ahead and post a question. Chances are, if the question you're asking, there's probably hundreds of other people wanting to ask the same question. And then wherever you're listening to this podcast, if you can rate and review, that would be really helpful for us. The more business owners, website owners that we can reach, the better and more secure they will be going forward. And they will be thanking you for your recommendations. So and then if you have a question about anything to do with local SEO in 10 or local SEO, go to our website, magnifiedmedia.net. Click on the podcast button, and there's a search bar, and you can search for any topic in there. And chances are we've done a topic on it because Adam's been so generous with his time and educating the world on local search engine optimization. So thank you again, Adam, and we will talk to you next week.
That's all for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of Local SEO in 10 with Google local marketing expert Adam Duran. Join us each week for answers to your questions on how to best harness the power of the internet to grow your business. Speaking of questions, got some? Message us through our Facebook page, Local SEO in 10, and we'll be sure to give you your answer on an upcoming episode. This episode of Local SEO in 10 is brought to you by Magnified Media, the leading online marketing agency in Northern California, who invite you to grow your business by magnifying your online visibility and credibility. Visit them on the web at www.magnifiedmedia.com. Magnify your business, magnify your profits.